Welcome back to the show, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Arif, Halaby, Jeff Gerard, your place for news, talk, and information. That's what Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour is all about, and that's why we are here. So many of you learn about money from home. That's generally where it happens. You sit at the table, your mom and dad talk about money, but often we hear not a whole lot of good things about money. Do you realize that you can still badmouth people that are wealthy? Do you know that? You can still pick on people that make money. You can still call people names. Arif, we can't do that. That's not right. Yes, you can. Here's a great example, and it just happened to me over the weekend. Think for just a second. If I was to walk into a room, friends, maybe you just met me. Maybe I was invited by another friend. And it says, hey, we're just having a group of people come over. And I walk into the room and I say, hey, Jeff, how you doing? Good to see you. Boy, you guys wouldn't believe it. And I started saying a couple of racial slurs. Oh, this person, the driver here, and this person, and I was sexist this way, and talked about homosexuals that way. And I went into this whole rant. Well, you guys would go, that's pretty rude. And you would hopefully socially isolate that person. You would say, that guy, he's not up with the times. He's rude and disrespectful. But if I walked into the room and I said, oh, you guys wouldn't believe it, this lady driving a Mercedes, those people with Mercedes, and oh my gosh, this guy had a Lamborghini, and you know how those guys are. Or I said, oh, this guy came into the store and he had one of those Rolex watches on. And all I could do is pick on things that indicated money. And you did the thing with the pinky, just saying, because I know a couple people that do that. And you secretly, quietly talk bad about rich people or people with money or that have more of whatever than you do. Those guys with those golf clubs or that live over there. And everybody would look at us and them and go, yeah. But you couldn't do that, rightfully so, about the other disrespectful things people would say. In other words, we can still pick on people with money. Isn't that interesting? I'm serious about this because you need to realize that this is the same thing as the undercurrent of socially unacceptable things that were said for decades in the South, little code words, if you will, or in certain families in the North. It didn't matter wherever you lived. But today, it's still being said at the dinner table about money. Hey, Dad, how much does Mr. John make? That's rude to ask how much money people make. But today at the dinner table, you can talk about marijuana usage. You can talk about gay marriage. You can talk about other things, but man, don't talk about money. Your teenager can ask openly about maybe sex or other things when you're talking at a dinner table or after dinner in the living room. But if you were to say, Dad, I want to make a lot of money when I grow up. Son, it's not about money. Stop being rude and disrespectful. Money's dirty. The root of all evil is money. No, the root of all evil is the love of money. Right? Just like the love of a lot of things is not good if it's not in the right perspective. I'm sharing this with you because I want you to grasp the fact of how you communicate to your friends, family, and even your children. Because in order to spend money, you have to make money. If you think at the same time it's dirty, bad, and evil, and then, oh, by the way, I need to make more so that my family can have a healthier, wonderful life, you're going to always have conflict. You're going to always run into this thing in your life where you're trying to figure out, should I make more money? Is it bad to talk about money? But I need to ask a question, but should I not be rude? But I don't completely understand it. Should I... Right? And you're now in this circle. Jeff, we've seen it. We have done it. I think both you and I have still, even though we're very, very hypersensitive and aware of this, for me, the last 3 decades probably, we still get caught up in it because that's how we were raised. That is occasionally the conversation with, quote, our friends or our family around the dinner table, or just on the weekend barbecue. And we still kind of slip up.
Well, having grown up in that very similar environment where it was, it was rude to ask how much somebody made, and certainly don't ask that in a group setting because you wouldn't want to put somebody on the spot. You wouldn't want to offend them.
You could ask them about all sorts of other things,
totally.
Right?
Anything else I wanted, for the most part, as long as it was, couched in a respectful manner. But you did not talk about money. I remember seeing my great-grandfather always had cash, always had boatloads of cash. You could never catch the man without I mean, somebody somewhere has
wad of money of some sort.
Well, you had this feeling where you wanted to buy something and you reach for your wallet. You're like, oh, and you had to think about how you were going to pay for it because they didn't have a place to swipe your card.
Right.
This man would never ever be caught without cash because he grew up in that era, and then having grown up.
Not trusting banks, probably.
Correct,
yeah.
Not trusting banks. I mean, look, this is the kind of person that when he passed away, his kids found money stuffed in the curtain rods and in the garage and in glass jars. And I mean, just shy of burying it in the backyard. I mean, maybe they did, I don't know. But certainly, so that I share because even though I'm just shy of 40 years old at this point, and we are certainly in a different age, in a different environment, different landscape, I still hold some of those remnants of that upbringing. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad thing to have those conversations about money. You just didn't do it in that way. So you could talk about it privately, and you could talk about other things, sex, drugs, whatever else, so that you're in the know. We want our children to be in the know. We never want them to get
they can share anything with us.
They don't want them to get broadsided, out on the street. So then why aren't we talking to them about money? Why would we not do that? I've taught my kids about money since they were able to understand the language I spoke. And I think that's essential because no matter what you carry, I know we're getting a little bit philosophical and deep here, but no matter what you carry from your upbringing, it's up to you really to break that. And I'm not saying that my mom didn't teach me about money or my dad, but they had a different style of doing it. And my mom's more of the, hey, here's what you do. You go to work hard. You work hard when you get there, and make sure you squirrel something away. She didn't know percentages. She didn't know about retirement. Because look, as a young mother, that's kind of what happens. You work to get along, and you pay for what you have to pay for. But it's up to us to kind of break that. And I don't think it's ever too early to talk to your kids about it. And in fact, I think the longer you wait, the more of a detriment it is to them.
I believe so, because often when the conversation's about, should I start a 401k? Mom, I'm 20 years old. I got my first job, and they have a 401k plan. Or Dad, they have benefits. Should I sign up for this benefit or that benefit?
Yep.
Those kinds of things are conversations that your kids have to have at least a foundation. It's okay they want to come to us and they want to learn more about it and the pros and cons of should they open it and how much should they put in and what kind of accounts. But really where it comes to play is the underutilization. That means it's not being used. The underutilization of things like a Roth IRA. It is amazing to me that two things happen. Number one, that we can stand for this as a society where we are not allowing people to put in massive amounts of money into their Roth IRA. You want to set aside money, pull it from circulation, especially now. We have so much money in circulation. That's when inflation can come into play. We have so much money into circulation. It would be to the best interest of the government to take those dollars and move them out of circulation. Now, why won't they do that? Very simply, because the economy is still a consumer-based economy where if we do not have in place the average, everyday, middle, so to speak, American getting their tax refund and spending it all immediately, getting a child tax credit and then spending it immediately, getting a pay raise and you get it?
Yep.
The ones that set aside money and save it for retirement and not at the sporting goods store or the big box store or the new car dealership, the ones that are saving it are helping themselves for today and in the future, but mostly helping them later because it's going to release the burden. In other words, look, if you're the government and you have Social Security and you were making $45,000 a year, your Social Security payment is almost, it's a huge percentage of what you were making when you retire. So if you work for 35 years, you retire, you have your Social Security check, it's going to be nearly as much as you were taking home before, almost. But if you were making $120,000 a year, your Social Security check is peanuts comparatively. It's about a third or less than a third. You're like, I can't live on this. Yesterday I was making $110,000 a year. Today I'm making $25,000 a year. I can't do that. But if you were making $40,000 or $45,000 a year, if you're lower middle income and you retire, and now you're going to be making, I don't know, $30,000 maybe?
Yeah.
It's pretty close between the taxes. So if you have set aside a little bit of money for yourself in a Roth IRA, you now receive something that is unheard of. Tax-free money. Like what?
It's a big deal.
Can that happen in America?
Because after healthcare, taxes are one of your biggest expenses in retirement. It's not getting there, because we can do that as long as we're working, right? We're squirreling away some money. We're taking care of ourselves in the meantime, paying for all of our expenses. But then when we stop trading our time for money, as you clearly stated earlier, when it comes to retirement, that's a very important conversation. And where your dollars are parked, that conversation, when you take money out of that account, there's a conversation that goes on between your dollars and the IRS. How you pull those out, that's a great conversation. I do know, and we know somebody, and we have clients where we've seen this, where they've almost done too well. They've almost saved too much money. You think, well, how can that be the problem? Because before they got to us, they were on a path of saving in a tax-deferred environment. Now, look, that's great. That's great at the time, but it doesn't always mean that you're going to be, because look, why was tax deferral created? Oh, because you're making too much money now, and we hope that you put the money aside instead of taking it in your right pocket, put it in your left pocket, and when you're retired, you'll be in a lower tax bracket. Everybody throws that around so loosely. You'll be in a lower tax bracket. Really?
Maybe not.
Your little kids, your little write-offs are gone.
Yeah.
Your house is mostly paid off, so there's no interest there that you can write off. Maybe you've sold your business. Basically, you have nothing to buffer you from the money you're pulling out of these 401ks and 403bs and your tax sheltered plans at work and all your pension money or your social security, right? And most people don't even know.
Isn't that scary that
has to be had, that conversation?
When you're going to work, especially if you have your own basic everyday write-offs, right? Mm-hmm. House mortgage, 2 kids, a dog named Fluffy, you got it all together. And then all of a sudden one day you wake up, kids are gone, most of your house mortgage is paid off. Maybe you sold the house and you were paying cash. Because remember, we talk about rich people and poor people. And I don't mean the money in your pocket. I mean rich people and poor people with the mindset, right? The mindset of a rich person is not to pay off their house for the sake of paying off their house. I know famous people on TV and radio show guys want to tell you, oh, you should pay off your primary mortgage, pay off your house. Maybe that's a good idea, but why would it not be a good idea? Very simply, not because of the tax benefits, but because a house is never paid off. You always will have property taxes. You will always have repairs and maintenance. And if you can get money for your house, if you have a loan of $250,000 on your house and it's 3.5%, your effective cost for that money is almost zero between inflation and tax write-offs. So in other words, your house, the cost of the money buying your home is almost free. So then if you could take the money and put it somewhere else, pre-tax, right? So now you're not paying tax on the money, because in order to pay off your house, you have to go to work, earn money, pay income tax, get what's left, and go pay down the house. But if you take it and you set it aside in your 401k or your traditional IRA, those dollars have not been taxed. That's almost a 30% savings, 20%, whatever your tax bracket is. I mean, do you realize that is a huge savings that you do not receive by paying off your house? Now, what's the cons to that? Well, Arif, I don't want to have a payment in my future retirement. Okay. But what if you had a big bucket of dollars over here that were safe, that were in something, as we spoke of earlier in the program, the fixed indexed annuity, that were dollars that were not at risk, so the market didn't go down. You earned reasonable returns, 3, 4, 5%, whatever, on average. And now you take those dollars. So instead of paying 30%, you're able to use the money that you would have paid in taxes, earn interest on that money in your 401k or your traditional IRA, Sept IRA if you're a self-employed person, SEP, self-employed person. That Sept IRA now has dollars set aside for your future. Isn't that interesting that you could actually have enough money to where the machine is kicking out enough money to pay your payment, right? You have $500,000 sitting there. Rich people don't always pay off their loans. If they have the cash, they let the money work for them and let the little interest pay off the loan. Look, I'm not saying that everybody has to do the same thing. I just want you to think a little differently. Because one size does not fit all. I don't care who you are, whether you're listening to my show or you're listening to somebody else's radio show. One size does not fit all. And you and your family have to plan. And right now, people are not utilizing the Roth IRAs the way they should. Jeff, give me some of the advantages of a Roth, R-O-T-H, the Roth IRA.
Well, the Roth IRA works a little bit differently from a traditional IRA or even a 401k because you don't get the tax write-off today. You would put money into an account as though you'd stick it in a savings account at the bank or basically under your mattress. But what it gives you the ability to do, and look, let's be clear, Roth IRA is not, because we've heard people say this, oh, I don't like Roth IRAs. They don't make very much money. Or really? It's a conversation with the IRS. It's a designation for tax purposes. You can have a Roth IRA that goes out and buys several different instruments, a CD, an annuity, real estate. You can do all different sorts of things, whatever those rules allow. So the conversation is really this. Do I want to put money into a place, whether it's a savings account or whatever we just named a minute ago, and then have it be that when that money goes out and makes more money, do I want to have to pay tax on that? Am I going to spend that money? No, you'd put money in a Roth IRA that you're not going to spend until you get to retirement. This is your long-term play. But it's got some great advantages because at the age of 59 and a half, which is probably sooner than a lot of people will retire anymore, at least in this current environment, you'll have the ability to take tax-free withdrawals. So you say, okay, I'm not going to do this with all my money because let's say you're a high income earner and you've got to shelter some of your money from taxes so you don't give it all away and end up with nothing. So maybe that's the conversation you have with your tax professional, your tax team, your CPA, whatever have you. Not something I would say go and just research on the internet or talk with your brother or cousin or uncle because, again, what Arif said was there's not a one-size-fits-all, and you might be leaving some things on the table that can help you because you listened to someone that maybe had a bad taste in their mouth or had no idea what they were talking about. So work with someone that knows about taxes and that knows the advantages of some of these accounts. So when you go and put money in that Roth IRA, you have the ability to just put it off to the side, not think about it. If it's in a place where it doesn't go backwards in value, that's even better. Now it's grown over time, and you get to pull that money out tax-free. And why does that even make sense? Because if you take money out that is subject to tax, it can affect your Social Security. So many times people think their Social Security is completely tax-free. It is with an asterisk, as long as you don't have other monies coming in and your whole entire household doesn't have too much coming in to where the government says, oh, sorry, we're going to take a little bit back that we gave you there. So that Roth IRA is really nice to complement. And you might have both. You might have some money that's not been taxed, and you might have some money that will never be taxed again, and that's a good balance.
Look, part of the process of what you're looking at, folks, is you now have to understand you have to take control of this. You can stomp your foot, you can be angry, you can say it's not fair, you can say the union was going to take care of me or my city job or my government. It's not that way anymore. The sooner you get involved with your own retirement, you make decisions that sometimes actually buck the trend. You know, if everybody's doing one thing, maybe that's not always the right place to go. Maybe it's not always the right idea to go out and say, I'm going to put all my money at risk because, oh, the market is down. It's a buying opportunity. Well, maybe it is, or maybe it isn't. I don't want you to think that just because a talking head on TV or on the radio says you should go left or right or up or down, that's the place to go. You have to think for yourself. And sometimes that's going to make your advisor unhappy. Do you know that? Sometimes it's going to take your advisor and cost them money. I know we had one of these things, we had one recently where the advisor was earning $560 a month on average. It was about that. $567. I remember the number because it was shocking to me. Because I remember thinking, wow, that's a lease payment of a nice BMW.
Yeah.
Or I could buy a nice boat for $560 a month, right?
Sure.
And I thought, oh my goodness, this advisor must be working their fanny off for this. And so the client called and said, basically we called, how much are the fees? And that's what we came up with. So I asked the client, I go, do you want to make this money safe? They said, well, what do you mean? I go, well, right now it goes up and down with the market and you pay a fee. And they just said it was $560 a month on average. Are you okay with that? And they thought for a second and they looked at each other. And I'm thinking, a yes or a no answer. Sometimes people want the risk because they like potential returns that are higher. Great. And they looked at me and they said, we never knew. I said, you never knew what? We never knew that those were the kinds of fees we were paying. I said, well, I don't know what forms they had you sign or how they reviewed that. Of course, I wasn't there. And they said, what are we getting for that? I said, I don't know. You have to ask them. Apparently, you're not receiving safety, right? In other words, it can go up and down. You could actually lose some of your principal. That's kind of scary to me, but it's your money, not mine. You have to decide if you want some of this, safe or all of it. It's up to you. You have other monies, and this is just the one account. And they looked back and forth, and they thought, I can't believe that we fell for this. And it's not, I wasn't there, so I don't know how the conversation when they originally signed up for this, but I do want you to know one thing. You can make changes. And just like this particular client made changes to save them hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month, thousands a year, in fact, you can do the same. So when we come back, we're going to wrap this up, give you some advantages of the Roth IRA, how you can merge those Roth IRAs with an indexed annuity and what that does to give you some safety for some part or even all of your account when we come right back. I'm Arif Halaby on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour with Jeff Gerard on AM 1220 KHTS. Hey, welcome back to the show, Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Arif Halaby, Jeff Gerard on your place for news, talk, and information. Hey, folks, I was out last week. I want to thank Jeff publicly.
Wow.
Publicly.
Thank you.
Because I happened to catch some of the show. You guys know you can go to the App Store if you have Apple, and you can go to, for Android devices, go to Google Play, and you can actually download the KHTS app. Do you know that we have an app so wherever you are, you can learn more about what's going on in Santa Clarita with news and social media, can give you updates on what's happening with traffic and advisories, things that are happening right here. You can even, as I did, listen live to the show with your app on your iPhone or Google device. Just go to the App Store and give you a chance to download the app. It's free, no cost, and you can listen to me, to Jeff, anywhere we are. In fact, we have podcasts available where you can actually listen to old shows. I think it's fun because people will hold us to what we say if we make predictions or we say something is good or bad, and later on we're proven to be right, because I only want to talk about the winnings, right? I go, aha, see, I told you so, just like gambling, right? If some of you go to Las Vegas, you're like, I won $3,000. Well, what about the money you lost? Well, we have predictions every once in a while. We can go out and kind of give you ideas of what's happening in Santa Clarita. Ideas, tips, tricks, financial trips. Look, I don't care where you were born. You understand that in America, we're no different than the rest of the world in a couple of areas, and then we are night and day different in another couple of areas. This is important. I think you need to listen. Do you know that no matter what, since the beginning of time, rich people have made the rules? Is that shocking?
I'm shocked.
I know. Please stay seated. Rich people have made the rules. Whether you were Genghis Khan's buddy, Napoleon's best friend or cousin, whether you were a family member of Attila the Hun, the Roman Empire, the British Empire, it doesn't matter. Rich people always made the rules. Fidel Castro, Chinese Premier, Mao Zedong, or the United States of America. But you see, when we were founded in 1776, we said we're going to create a document where rich people still made the rules. Surprise, rich people made the rules. But they did something that has just never been heard of, and it says the rules are going to apply to everybody. Now, if you're a minority group, I get it. You're saying, well, Arif, you don't understand. No. You see, the rules applied to everybody, but they didn't have to tell you what they were. They didn't have to teach you how to read. That's how one way you were going to find out. They weren't going to let you hang out in certain classrooms or schools. That's another way to find out. But today, do you know that doesn't exist anymore? No. See, rich people still make the rules, but they apply to everybody. They don't have to tell you, but all you do is need one of those little devices called the internet thing and a Google. If you have a Google, you now know you can figure out how to become wealthy in America and successful, whatever that means to you, more time or family, freedom, it doesn't matter. And the rules have changed. That's never been the case. In the history of known mankind, it has never been the case. Folks, you've got to realize how important this is. Whether or not having a Roth IRA where it's tax-free money when you pull it out, when you retire, putting it in something like an indexed annuity, which means you're not going to pay monthly fees or quarterly fees or deposit fees, where if the market goes down, you're not going to lose your principal. Did you know those things can exist? Now, they don't pay advisors very well. They don't pay financial people or insurance professionals. I mean, look, we still make a good living, don't get me wrong, but they don't pay us the same as if you were to keep another account in your brokerage world for 10 years or 20 years. The fees are just different. So why don't you know about that stuff? You know, why is it that so many times people go through life and they just follow the herd? You know, the car commercials are one of my favorite. They just seem to know things. And what we look at is they follow stuff very cleanly. They know the trends. And people are making big mistakes. I don't want you to make those mistakes. You can always go to hometownstation.com, click on Total Financial Solutions, and do yourself a favor. If you have any questions, you send them to us. We'll be happy to answer it. Thanks for listening. Arif, Halaby, and Jeff Gerard on your place for News Talk and Information, AM 1220, KHTS.